This is Geek Gab with your hosts, John and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. We have on the show today two luminaries of Twitter and the Pulp Revolution. They go by the names of PC Bushi and Kaiju Bushi, but for the purposes of keeping things straight on the show, we'll just call them Bushi and Kaiju. But before we introduce our very special guests, we have an update from fellow host and good friend, author Brian Niemeyer, who unfortunately could not be with us today, or at the very least, if he does show up, he's going to be a little bit late. So we will, Brian wanted me to pass along his regrets to you, our audience. That out of the way, John, how was your week?
Not bad. Not as geeky as I'd like, but I'm going to be paying attention this weekend to Origins Game Fair. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but it's one of the bigger gaming conventions that happens in Columbus, Ohio, of all places, every year. And a lot of game demos there. A lot of games get released there or announced there. And near and dear to my heart, that's where the North American players of Vampire: The Eternal Struggle gather for their yearly national tournament. That usually draws, 50 to 100 people every year, including people from Europe. I wish I were there, but I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Sorry.
By the way, Alex Kimball in the chat mentions that today is free RPG day. So if you want to kick off down to your local after this show is over, obviously, and probably after the Superversive SF live stream is over, because I'll be on that, and you don't want to miss a single minute of Daddy Warpig. But kick out after that is over. Kick on down to your friendly local RPG retailer and check out Free RPG Day. There's a lot of great stuff. I've seen various companies posting on Twitter of the things they're going to have available, and it's always nice to check out what else is available. All right. So we're going to allow our guests, Bushi and Kaiju, to take the mic. How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey, how's it going? Good to talk to you.
Your mic sounds like garbage.
Yeah, it is. It is garbage.
All right, help out me in the audience. Who's on the garbage mic and who isn't?
This is Bushi on the garbage mic. It's just a crappy gaming headset.
I'm on a crappy gaming headset too. Do I sound like crap?
I've
sounded like crap for 2 years. I have sounded like crap for 2 years, and you guys never told me.
Bushi sounds like he's sitting in a beehive, but you more sound like you're in a hallway. So you're not bad. You're fine. This is Kaiju, by the way. That's why I'm being mean to people.
Endorsed.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Somebody was saying something about RPGs before I squashed them. No?
Free ones? Is that what you were saying? Free RPGs?
Now somebody like Kaiju or Bushi, one of the two was saying something about RPGs before I did the Alex Kimball announcement. I wanted to give him a chance to get that comment out before we jump off.
I thought that was I think John was talking about the Origin.
Origins, yeah.
Yeah, Origins. I didn't know if, and gaming-wise, is that like electronic gaming, or is that
it's almost all tabletop.
Okay, tabletop stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's the official convention of GAMA, the Game Makers Association.
Okay.
And so it's almost all RPGs and war games and tabletop games.
Okay.
It's sort of like, it's not as big as Gen Con, obviously, but it's, if you live in the Midwest, you're lucky. You get all the gaming conventions you want.
Okay, because I never heard of it because I'm out on the East Coast here with nothing. Anyway.
You got a lot of anime conventions on the East Coast. That much is true.
Yeah, I don't usually make it out to those. I know Bushi's been to Otakon, right?
Yeah, my sister dragged me to that one year. It was interesting.
Yeah, back in my college days, I went to Katsukon once or twice, and that was shameful. I mean, fun. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I might have been able to do that before I got married, but I can't. I don't think my wife would let me back in the house if I went to an anime convention.
She's Jay, man.
To be honest, yeah.
It takes a special
It's her
type of
culture.
fan. It takes a special type of fan. I mean, I went to it and I played in some video game tournaments and I watched some great, I watched some anime and I watched some cool costumers. Oh, I'm sorry, cosplayers. And it was an okay experience, but I've just found myself sitting on the outside going, yeah, I like to watch anime, and this is back when I did like to watch anime, but I don't really belong here. This isn't. I'm gonna go play more Marvel vs. Capcom 2 over here in the video game lounge.
Yes, I understand. I mean, I'm not. I like anime. I'm not really big into it. I was kind of late to the whole Japanese culture thing. I didn't really get into it in high school, and not until I actually started studying Japanese in college was I exposed to it. And that's mostly Bushi's fault, because he was the only other relatively normal student in the Japanese class. So
Relatively is the key word.
yes, relatively. Anyway, but that's. I was just curious about the tabletop and I guess is traditional RPG playing, is that also considered tabletop, or does tabletop gaming mostly like Warhammer type?
Oh yeah, most people roll RPGs into that.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, you've hit on something there which we should point out. I mean, people who do wargaming don't really do RPGs or even regular board games. Like you can go to like a board gaming meetup group, and there's like one table where there's a few people standing around, and they're separate from another table where they're laughing and having fun and playing board games and stuff. And you go to this other group, and you're like, what's going on? And they'll say, oh, we're playing 18xx games this week.
What is an 18xx game?
It's a war game simulation, but it's set in the 1800s, and there's all sorts of battles. And so, like, one game would be the year 1873, and it has a particular map and a setup and everything. And I'm sure there's lots of people who know a lot more about it than I do, but that's the gist of it.
Okay.
Oh, so the 18XS is 1800s.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. I thought it was like a like the 4X game. So I thought it was like, what is 18 levels of strategy? That's like, I quit. I don't. No time.
And there are people who love that shit, man. There are people who like, I remember going to another gaming club years and years ago, looking for some board games to play. People to meet. Hey, what are we playing what are we playing today? Oh, we're starting an advanced civilization game. We're probably going to be done Sunday afternoon.
God, it's like risk on crack.
Yeah.
Just turn around and walk out the door. But hey, Origins caters to those people too.
Yeah, well, all the best to them.
There are war games, classic war games that take months or years to play through. And people keep meticulous notes about the location and the status of everything and reset it up next time and play through a couple of turns. I mean, there are naval war games where they use, miniatures of the ships, and they're keeping track of shots and battles and things like that. Coincidentally, the armor rating for naval war games originally it modeled ablative armor gradually degrading as shot after shot came in, and it was in point of fact the origin of hit points for Dungeons and Dragons, and then all the other role-playing games who adopted it, and then all the other computer role-playing games who adopted it. So
Yeah, I think the closest experience we have to that probably is Kaiju. I think it was one Christmas bought me. It's like a Warhammer 40K disc Disc Wars or something like that. It's basically like Warhammer Pogs. And
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of money. Let me just defend myself here. So we didn't have miniatures, so we bought little cardboard cutouts, and I think we played for like a couple hours, and then my child ruined it.
By being born, and now you don't have time.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question, Bushi, because you threw out a question about what you should talk about when you guys came on the show today. And you got a huge long list of some really interesting topics. Do you have that list available? Because I just want you to like read through the list, just because some of them are really bizarre.
Yeah, I wrote down a few of them. I think most of them were requests for Kaiju to talk about trolling on Twitter, and there's a lot of why mayonnaise is the worst kind of suggestions. But
Wait, where's this list?
it's just on Twitter. People wanted to hear you talk about mayonnaise being the worst condiment. But
Okay.
I think we should address Agma, actually. He's a good guy. He runs the Temple of Steel blog, which is big on Appendix N literature and RPG stuff. He wanted to hear us talk about Pulp and Appendix N, actually. I think we have a bit of stuff we could say about that.
He was just on Jim Fear's podcast for like 4.5 hours. I haven't had a chance to listen to any part of it yet, but
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of time. I listened to, I think, a little bit. Yeah, I got through like an hour, but I rarely have enough time to like brush my teeth. So I do brush my teeth though, and I don't eat mayonnaise. But let's talk about Pulp, because that's more interesting. And Pulp is, I just want to go out and say that Bushi didn't actually like Pulp. I tried to get him to read some REH, and he made a face and said that he only wanted to read Asimov.
All right, he's full of. This is a family-friendly show. I'll just say he's full of it here. No, I mean, Kaiju is one of the main influences that led me to Pulp and the whole Appendix N scene, which is I think most of your audience probably knows, but those are the works that inspired and contributed to the development of the original Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, actually Kaiju got me into Robert E. Howard and Edgar Rice Burroughs originally. I think I had read a little bit of Appendix N and Pulp stuff before that, kind of unwittingly. You know, like I knew Tolkien, and I had read Gordon Dixon, The Dragon and the George, which I think was originally a Pulp story, but that was kind of the extent of my exposure to that stuff. And then, yeah, I read Conan, and I was like, wow. And same, Kaiju won another year. He bought me a collection of the first, 5 John Carter of Mars stories, and I guess kind of Jeff Rowe Johnson and John C. Wright have talked about this generational gap. I think there's a lot of younger people, millennials and younger, who either haven't heard of this stuff, or when we have heard of it, it was kind of derogatory, old-timey, isn't that stupid kind of stuff, oh, people breathing on Mars and shooting ray guns. Sounds kind of stupid, but you read it, and this is actually really good stuff, and that kind of drove me to find more.
Before we get any longer, you two are part of a group blog. I know there's at least 3 of you. Are there any more? Yeah,
there's 3 of us right now. It's actually Bushi, who is he's a really interesting, fun guy. He's also on Twitter by a different handle. Was it Brain Fertilizer? I can't remember, but he's the newest Bushi, and he writes a lot. Although a lot of his topics are political recently. Kaiju has been mostly keeping to writing stories, actually, and he's been writing a really interesting Sword and Sorcery, which has been coming kind of serialized.
It's never going to be finished.
It's almost finished.
Brain Fertilizer, Kitabushi, he has a lot of output, so he writes for the blog a lot. I don't write as much. I write the least amount. Actually, the blog started off as being kind of a political blog, but everyone has a political blog, and we just really weren't that interested in sitting there talking about politics nonstop, because that's what everybody does anyway. So that's why we switched gears to start talking about other stuff that we liked. So Bushi he's more in kind of the sci-fi fantasy stuff. I like more of the horror. That's more my like horror pulp kind of stuff. Is where I came in. I grew up reading short horror stories, and some like Ray Bradbury. Not that he's horror, but that was my favorite author when I was growing up. And then H.P. Lovecraft. I think I read a lot of Stephen King for some reason. I don't know why my parents let me do that. That was a bad idea. That's why I'm so well adjusted now. And then so that's our blog. We try to keep it up to date, but most of the time I just sit on Twitter and say random junk.
We have a link, by the way, to PC Bushi blog, pcbushi.wordpress.com, in the comments below the video, so you can check that out.
Yeah, we actually just registered the shortened version, so you can go to pcbushi.com and get to the same place.
You should update that on your Twitter profile.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I just did it a couple days ago. I'm like, hey, we're going on Geek Gab. We should have a semi-legit looking website.
We're not semi-legit though, so
one thing at a time.
You're legit enough for the Geek Gab.
Are you saying that coming on Geek Gab confers legitimacy?
Yes, I think yes, it does.
You've made a gentleman.
I'm gonna say. So I mean, I'd like to. One thing I wanted to talk about was I like to do the. It's called hate buying. Does that make sense?
To buy something you know you're not going to like?
No, I buy something for Bushi that I know he doesn't want.
Okay.
But I buy it
for great gifts.
I buy it anyway, and then he feels guilty and he has to use it.
Yeah, so, that was in college when he's like, "Hey, here's World of Warcraft. Say goodbye to the next 5 years of your life."
Yeah. So I ruined his life. That time, in college, and then I bought a Monster Hunter recently. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Monster Hunter series, and I don't think that ruined his life. He got mad, but that's
Korea's book series or the video games.
The video games. So I know Bushi's read some of the Monster Hunter book series, but I'm talking about the video games where you just run around fighting dinosaurs. It's pretty ridiculous. But I probably wasted 100 hours on that.
Yeah, a note on that. Daddy Warpig and I were talking a little before the show about some of Nintendo's worst decisions, and I guess this is more on Capcom, but we just found out the other day that the latest Monster Hunter game is not going to come to the West, and Kaiju was pretty salty about that the other day.
I was salty. It's true. Yeah. I mean, that's why I bought a Nintendo Switch, because I'm an idiot, and but that's my defense. But Zelda's a good game, and I'm probably gonna get in trouble for buying a Switch. Anyway, somebody else say something, because I'm just digging a hole here.
So I've got a question. I have noticed about the pulp. What is it that you liked about it once you actually started reading it?
You wanna start, Kaiju, or you want me to go?
Okay, I'll go. I think I liked. There's still a sense of kind of like wonder in it. They still use some of the classic archetypes of there's a hero and there's a villain. Not everything is gray. Not all the heroes are anti-heroes. Not all the villains are just, coming from backgrounds where they didn't get enough cereal as a child and so are angry. It was also, it's they write action. Like, I feel like they don't write action anymore. Especially the John Carter stories. I mean, those things are pretty much just front to back action, and it's, you go through a couple hundred pages in one train ride, basically. I think that was getting back to the Popes was just enjoying reading again for me. Like, it's just fun to read. Does that answer your question, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think DW, you and Jeffro and Alex of Kursova have all talked about this, but there's certain themes you see in the pulps, like traditional values, like fidelity and old-fashioned romance, in addition to just the action, that it's harder to find today. And I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff. And some of these authors are just, like, even technically and stylistically, I feel like they're so far above what you read today in most modern SFF. Jack Vance is kind of on the tail end of pulp. Like, some people don't consider him pulp, but for him, I remember just like being astonished reading him and having to look up words, which I hadn't had to do in a long time. And excuse me. And yeah, I just feel like the quality was a lot better back then. Not across the board, because there's a lot of stuff that's faded away, and there are even a few popular pulp authors who I'm not really a big fan of, but there's a lot of just great underestimated stuff.
Who are you not a fan of, Bushi?
So I recently revised my opinion of I'm not sure if it's Lee or Lay Brackett. I just read a story by her that I actually really liked, but the first story I read by her was called, like, The Jewel of Boss, and I wasn't impressed by that at all. And Fritz Lieber is the other one, who I'll probably take a lot of crap for saying this, but I don't know, it just seems kind of mediocre. And part of it might be that a lot of his tropes and his style have been kind of replayed over the years, so maybe he used to be fresher than I felt he is. And I haven't given up on him yet, but I've read now a couple of books by him, and just, yeah, wasn't that impressed.
Yeah, the I went to actually start to read the pulps again after I read a bunch of the Song of Ice and Fire, or Song of Fire, Game of Thrones stuff. So I went through a phase where I read all those books, and he doesn't write books very often, so I was like, well, let me see what else I can read that's kind of in the same genre. And that's when I started reading. I picked up REH again. And it's just like, I don't feel like offing myself after reading like Howard. Whereas like Martin, it's like everybody dies. Life is meaningless. Let's burn people. Basically.
Well, I don't know how you got that far into watch anybody die. I don't think I lasted 50 pages in the Game of Thrones.
I read the first. I don't have 6. Are there 6 books out now? 5. I read all of them basically, and I don't know why, but I think once I start something, I usually just try to finish it. So that was.
Oh, that was like a lot of us with the Wheel of Time series.
Yeah, I haven't. I am not familiar with that, so I guess I should skip that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's the Song of Fire and Ice for us old folk, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So Song of Fire and Ice is just brutal, and I just don't. Nothing good. It's like that's like the anti-pulp, to be honest.
See,
Yeah.
I'm gonna differ there. I actually like.
Wait, you're wrong. So
I like that series.
nobody cares
Well,
what you have to say about it.
All right, I'll just turn off my garbage mic now. No, so I mean I actually like the stories themselves. I think George R. R. Martin is a good storyteller and a good writer, but I think again a lot of it comes down to values, and I think his value system, at least in the way he writes, is out of whack. Like I think death and loss, they are very powerful tools for writers to use, but you can't just like kill off everyone and not have anything have meaning. You're going to desensitize the reader or the audience. And, a lot of these older authors, I feel like they kill off characters, but, it's like their sacrifices usually have some kind of meaning. Whereas in Game of Thrones, that's really not the case.
Well, sure, people die in the Lord of the Rings, but there's meaning.
I think that A Song of Ice and Fire is basically George R. R. Martin screwing with the audience. He is, at least in the beginning, he was trying to prove how clever a writer he was and how good a writer he was by taking a bunch of the expected course of a story and then just doing exactly the opposite. So none of his plot arcs have any satisfying resolution, because to do the satisfying resolution would be to give the audience what they expect, to give the audience what they want, and you can't do that. And then he kills off characters randomly and brings some of them back, or the dwarf. His character is there just to get crapped on by the universe. They call him the imp, right? He's small, and then he gets his nose cut off, and then he gets this horrible disease, and then he finds someone and falls in love with them, and she gets, horrible things done to her, then she gets killed. All of these things, it's just to screw with the audience. Basically, A Song of Ice and Fire is George R. R. Martin using all of his talent, and he is an immensely talented writer. He's using all of his talent and skill as a writer to troll the readers. That's all he's doing, is trolling the readers.
Emphasis on the immense, am I right?
Yeah, and I think DW really hits on an interesting point there. I noticed in the chat, Roland, some people are talking about how George R. R. Martin really, he relies too much on shock value, and he's kind of, I think, gone overboard and ruined his series trying to pursue that. But, trolling the audience in and of itself is not an untenable strategy, because look at Jack Vance, for example. Jack Vance is a troll lord. But he knew how to do it without using cheap tricks, I think.
Well, I unfortunately have another live stream I've got to run to after this one, and we are edging close to being out of time. I did have a question. I've completely forgotten it. John, help Help me while I remember my question.
I had to do it. I had to do it. You put me on the spot. And you know, it's like the Terminator when you got those list of options, and option number 4 was let the silence hang. And I went for it, guys.
So other than blogging, are either of you doing larger projects that you just haven't announced yet?
I know Bushi is.
I mean, I think Kaiju and I are both doing a bit of writing, but not anything that we're ready to. I don't know that anything will come of it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I'm hoping to eventually submit something to either Cersova or
The Hard Sea Kaiju.
sorry, curse. I can't say any. I don't think I think that's the first time I've ever actually said it out loud. So you should shut up. Anyway, not just Bushi. You guys, other guys, you're good. But I mean, I don't really have a lot of time to do anything. I just I sit here and I play guitar, and I yell at my kids and the dog, and then my wife yells at me, and then sometimes I watch like children's cartoons.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
with the Sword and Sorcery serial that you're writing on the blog, are you going to be doing anything with that?
I mean, I'm hoping that I can write more. I mean, that character is kind of me trying to not mimic in so much, but like kind of, it's inspired by the Conan stories, but it's from like a Catholic perspective. So I mean, I'm Catholic, and I put a lot of throughout there, kind of throughout the stories are peppered different prayers and things like that are modeled after some of the forms of Catholic prayers, which is a little bit on the nose, I know, but I just wanted to see if I could do it, and so I'm hoping to write more stories of that, and I also am a big fan of noir, like tech future kind of dark detective stories. So I'm going to try that too, but it'll probably just turn into a complete farce, like everything else I do does. So whatever.
I just found out that on the Chinese internet, they have what they call, I believe, yin novels, which fans write, in addition to traditional publishing. Fans write them on the web and post them either daily or, every couple of days or whatever. And the novels and the stories go on like literally forever. There is some gentleman I was reading about the other day on the Chinese internet who writes an incredibly popular serial, who has written like a couple of thousand words for every day for years and years and years. He's on chapter something 1000 of this character going through these adventures in a westernized fantasy world, basically based on a world that is based on D&D, where characters literally have levels and level up and gain new powers and abilities and stuff. But it's amazing that they go on, they just write and write and write for days after days after days, for years after years after years, and they're immensely popular. People, Chinese, because they're written in Chinese and written for Chinese audiences, just eat them up. And even reading just about the tropes, or the ideas, the concepts, the settings that go into these novels, just fascinating. It makes me wish some of this is available in English at least, because it's really, really cool to think about.
Is that like monetized? Like, is that something that the writers can kind of live off of, or?
I have no idea. I from the article I was reading, I understood that most of these are amateurs, that they're not getting paid for it.
I'm not looking to get paid. I'm under no delusion that I'm going to get paid for any of my writing. I just like writing, and I like telling stories, because the most popular thing out there is, like we talked about, is the Game of Thrones, and I think that's it's well written garbage, basically.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, so that's it's, and I was inspired to do it by John C. Wright. Actually, I'm a big reader of his blog, and he was the one that was like, "Hey, we need to start telling our own stories. We can't just sit here and complain about, nothing good is written anymore." Because he's an awesome writer. I don't know if Bushi's read any of his stuff, but everything I've read by him, I've loved. So that's what I'm just trying to do my best in my whatever I do.
So you've got an ongoing Kaiju has an ongoing sword and sorcery serial written from the Catholic point of view on the PCBushi.com. Again, link is below. And then Bushi has a project that he's working on about writing that he can't talk about in public yet. Right?
I mean, I can say like the other day, the muse struck, and I just took a couple days and I wrote a short story, and Kaiju has read it. It's just kind of one of these old school, science fantasy kind of things.
It was ERB-esque.
Yeah. So I mean, I was thinking of submitting it to Kosova, but I'm going over the guidelines, and I don't know if anyone will ever read it, but
I read it.
Yes, we'll see.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, I know we're going over. Sorry.
No, we're okay. Do you have any last words before we take off?
I hope my voice wasn't too annoying to everyone listening. I don't like listening to myself, so.
Yeah, and I apologize for the snowstorm, and I would just say, everyone who's listening to you has probably already read the old stuff, but if not, go check it out.
Do you have any last words, John?
I thought about giving you a moment of silence again, but thanks for coming on the show, guys. It's great to hear about what you're doing and your interests and everything. And I haven't checked out your blog. I'll admit that I knew you guys as a couple of guys who are trolling me on Twitter all the time.
Yes.
Mission accomplished.
So this is great. I'm going to check out your blog and writings and everything. Really looking forward to that. And thanks for coming on the show. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm really kind of disappointed you didn't read that list of topics, because I thought that list, just as a list, was a hoot.
Yeah. Why did we not have a list?
I mean, it was mostly everyone repeating that they wanted Kaiju to talk about trolling stuff.
I mean, the secret of trolling is that I'm not actually trolling. I'm telling the truth. So, like, pizza is crap. Mayonnaise is disgusting. Toto is the best band ever. And IPAs are disgusting. It should all be poured down the sink, basically. I don't know if I left anybody else out, but if I did, whatever you like is garbage. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, folks. This has been Geek Gab, episode 103. We are, I'm going to give you the same stuff we always give you every week, because, again, we had an awesome conversation going on in the chat here, running all over for about D&D and design choices. Alex Kimball was talking about where a bunch of stuff was going on. They ran over some suggestions for Lee Brackett's reading, discussions about what video games are coming out on the Switch. I mean, there's a full-fledged conversation that goes on in every chat for the show if you watch us live on YouTube. So, if you want to stop by and join in the chat, by all means, we have a vibrant discussion. And that's the only way you're going to see it, is if you come in and listen to the show live. Doesn't bother to me, whether you come and listen live or not. But honestly, it's a great conversation. There's a lot of great people who come in and watch the show live, and you should drop by if you have a chance and just see what the convo is like. So, if you want to do that, be sure to double secret subscribe to the podcast. We're at youtube.com/geekgab. Click on the subscription button, and then click on the little bell to make sure you get the announcements for when the show goes live and stuff, when we've scheduled the show to go live. And of course, I sent out announcements on Twitter, on Facebook, on Gab, and on Google+. So if you have anything that you want to subscribe or follow to keep track of when they go out. I announce them. I try to announce them at least an hour beforehand. Today I announced this show last night, so you had plenty of warning if you want to come and do it live. We are available at youtube.com/geekgab. We are also available on the Google Play Store. We are also available on the iTunes Store, and we're available on soundcloud.com. Just do a search for Geek Gab. And we've got the big Geek Gab logo with a Superman-esque character who is, I would like to note, for the purposes of copyright and trademark, visually distinctive from Superman. If you zoom in real close on the chest, you'll see he doesn't even have an S on his chest, just in case DC was getting interested in investigating if that violates any copyrights. It most assuredly does not. We're taking off for today, folks. We're leaving you. We're gone. We will be back some other time. Yeah, in fact, I think I can promise that. We're leaving you for today, but we will be back.